Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast.
Tomorrow is opening day.
This morning, didn't have a great hunt. Deer didn't move like usual.
We just got set up in the middle of this bedding thicket. We've been saving this spot from the rut. I think it's a nice buck.
Boom! Hits a 170.
That was money. I think he's down right over there, maybe 10 yards.
Whitetail Legacy Podcast, bringing you back to the hunt and leaving a legacy.
Baller rut.
Welcome to the Whitetail Legacy Podcast. We're coming at you with a little different one this week, talking western hunting and elk hunting. Pretty excited for this one. I was looking at our charts on Libsyn, and we're lacking out west, bro. There's some states that didn't even listen to us once, and then I think Japan's listened to us 22 times.
Hey.
I'm like, man, you can't get nothing in Utah, but Japan's on fire. But we're coming out for the West guys here. We're talking to Ben. Ben, his energy is contagious. You can hear it in this episode.
Yeah.
He loves hunting. He loves going out there and getting it. Shout out to him for this hunt. Like he said, it was like kind of like a get your manhood hunt. And I could see that because, I mean, damn, it was, 15 days, he said, of hunting. You know, he's out there by himself in the woods, packing, struggling, trying to learn, and to be successful is pretty epic. So let's get into the people who make this possible and get into the show. Start with a VIP veteran broadhead. They have made, or Matt has made, a 125 grain interchangeable tip. So you can buy 125 grain heads now, or you can buy the 125 grain tips. Just screw them onto your hunters. You can do that, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Make sure you're veteran, 125 grain.
Yep. If you want to step up your FOC and get that 125 up front, that's the way to do it. Real easy change. Those tips screw in real nice with the Allen screw. He's got that hole all the way through, real simple. And you can really step up your game to some bigger, heavier heads real quick and pretty cost effective. Let's get into the VIP veteran broadhead shout out.
This week's VIP veteran broadhead shout out is Sergeant John Payne. He was with the U.S. Army Combat Engineer from 2006 to 2011. He is now medically retired. He was part of the OIF from 2007 to 2009 in Mosul, Iraq. He conducted route clearance and went door to door doing operations for his company, which located and disarmed over 500 IEDs and car bombs in his 15-month deployment. John, we appreciate your service and doing a very dangerous job at that. We can't thank you enough, man. That takes a lot of guts, and I had a pretty good conversation with you about it, and you know how I feel about it, and we just want to thank you here from Whitetail Legacy and the VIP family.
All right, big thank you for that. Way more balls than I got. That's some epic stuff going on right there. Somebody's got to do it, and sounds like you were the man for the job, getting that many disarmed. So, all right, let's get into Ingram's outdoor obsession. Talk to Ingram. He says he's got some bucks rolling in, so he's getting busy. Time of the year, you know, we've been through the good stuff. You know what I mean? It's if you haven't got your buck down, there's still a chance, and Ingram will still take it in and do the best job that he possibly can on it. All your taxidermy needs, Ingram's outdoor obsession. You got ECW calls?
Yeah, goose season's getting ready to kick off hot and heavy. Do not forget that Jeff has a great line of goose calls, and he can make them custom fit to your needs as well as all the rest of his line. So don't forget about him when you're getting ready to hop into that blind. Going into scentlock, there's been a lot of hype and a lot of publicity about the B1, the Bowhunter Elite suits coming out from Scentlock. They've been hitting the woods this year so far, and there's been a lot of people really loving it. And, it's been really tailored to the bow hunter in mind. So it's really good to hear a lot of positive feedback about that, and just everything being tailored towards the bow hunter.
Yeah. So the product idea is actually functionality like they want.
For sure, yeah.
So that's good. All right, let's get into the show. All right, we got Ben Lehman on. You're out in Ohio now, but you're kind of from everywhere, Arizona, New Hampshire. We've been trying to get this laid down for a little bit. Excited to have you on. Like I said, I love your personality. I love your outlook on life, your energy. Dude, when you were doing the push-ups with the goat on your back, I was like, this dude is on a whole nother level of happiness, and that's where I try to be. Yeah, I try to be like, I try to live on positivity. Like, you don't need sleep. You need a little bit of sleep, a little food, but you can live on positivity, and I think that's what you do. You live on that edge where it's just hard for people to get, and you're there every day. So I really like watching your videos. You're just jogging around, exercising, just happy as hell. I'm like, this guy is just living right now. So we're, like I said, I'm excited to have you on, excited for the listeners to hear you. Did you just come out with this stuff recently, or have you been doing it for a while, or?
Yeah, so I guess as far as that goes, putting out content, etc. I got into fitness when I was in college. Actually, through unfortunately a friend passing away, and he was a incredible athlete in high school, my best friend for a long time, and it was kind of one of those life-changing moments, really, for me, where I just really made a life change, and it was like, man, I gotta step up my fitness. I gotta take care of my body. You only live once, all of that good stuff. And so I got into fitness. And so anyway, I've been a fitness coach since my early 20s, now 27. And it kind of evolved into this online thing just because me and my wife decided we were living in New Hampshire where she grew up, and we were kind of looking for a house, doing the whole kind of normal type of thing, like, oh, we're going to get a house, we're going to have our own land, all that stuff. And we actually ended up putting a bid on a house, and it fell through. And that was probably the best thing that happened, because we then realized that we don't want to live in a house. We want to get an RV. We want to go explore the world, or explore the U.S. at least, and, have some adventures. And so that's kind of where my online presence evolved, just because all I've ever done is been a coach, and I love coaching, and I love, inspiring others, and being an influencer, I guess you could call it. And so I had to decide or figure out, how am I going to be a coach when we're on the road? I've always worked at a gym. And so I actually found a really awesome coaching program that helped train me kind of like how to build an online business, etc. And so that's kind of where it started. So I was like diving into videos, and I really just kind of found how much fun it is to make videos. and so I'm not a professional techie guy. I don't like produce videos, all that sort of stuff, but I love making Facebook Lives. I love just sharing my own training and advice and coaching knowledge. And it's been fun to get feedback from people, help people out, inspire people. I always at least get a couple comments. They're like, man, you're a freaking weirdo.
I like it, man. Yeah.
But it's like, yo, I'm just doing it. And it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, people say full sin, and you're like, every video, that's just you. So I can imagine hanging out with you. It'd be a blast, but I would have a hard time keeping up. Like,
caption of the live video, full sin again.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think that it's epic that you're traveling around and living out of RV. And go ahead and break down like where you've been traveling, and kind of break down your traveling and your hunting and your experience and stuff. So kind of go and break down that a little bit.
Yeah. So when we got going on this traveling life the last 2 years, we started out kind of doing a program called woofing. And so you're like, woofing, what the heck's that? So it's kind of just what's the thing where it's like letters that stand for something? I forget what that word is, but it stands for Worldwide Organic Operating Farms. And so it's a really cool thing. You haven't heard of it, you can look it up, and you basically do like a work trade at different farms. We actually stayed at an elk outfitter, was our very first place. And so obviously I was like pumped for this. You know, like, we're gonna go out west. We're gonna stay at an elk outfitter. Like, I'm gonna see so many elk. It's gonna be insane, and that was really cool experience. I got to help out with the I guess you could call me like the junior employee for the guides. I ran the trail camera trap line, as I called it, and that was super fun. I got on a ATV and I had like 20 trail cameras, but it was on this just like enormous 35,000 acre ranch. And so it took me all day to check 22 cameras, but it was probably my favorite day every single week. It was so much fun. And then I would, give all the guides all the goods and everything, and show them all the footage. And so we were there for a while. And like I said, it's a really cool work trade program where you can basically work part-time and you don't have to pay rent. They house you, or they at least give you RV hookups if that's what you're living in. And they compensate you some way or another for food. And every place is different. So at this elk outfitter, they had a lot of family meals, just everyone cooked together, especially when we had hunters, which was fun to all eat together. Get some elk tenderloin after a kill. It was super fun. And so we did that in New Mexico. And I was lucky enough to get a cow tag, elk cow tag from the outfitter as kind of part of the deal. So that was a score. And really good learning experience. It was my second time ever hunting elk, and tried to prepare the best I could for it, but it was a great learning experience. And I think when you hunt a new species, you always are going to have that, like I was basically hunting elk like deer, only full Rambo style, like I'm going to just run straight at them and I'm going to get aggressive, and I hold all the hurt. You hear all this stuff with having no experience of elk hunting and being a whitetail hunter all my life. You hear this stuff like, oh, elk, you got to like be aggressive and you don't want to just sit in a tree stand. You got to like run out of, get close to them and all this stuff. And so I think I took it a little too much because I think I blew all the elk out of the town. So, but yeah, so that was fun. That was definitely fun. But hunting wise, I got a really great year started. So I don't know how it's going to finish, but I am super pumped at how this year's going. It couldn't be going any better. I ended up getting my first elk. It was in Colorado. I got a really nice cow, and man, there's a lot of learning moments during that as well that I'm sure we'll jump into.
One thing I'd like to cover, I've had elk one time. I do not know where it was shot. It's from outside family member brought it in. We made cheeseburgers. It was very good. Not really gamey. I was wondering if there was any difference in the elk in New Mexico compared to the one that you had shot in Colorado.
Okay, so like as far as the actual meat, like taste, everything?
Yeah, I just feel like in New Mexico they don't have like a good of variety or a good browse to really, get rid of that gamey taste. Even elk don't really have the gamey taste that I've had, but I just feel like in Colorado there's like much more browse, diversity of the environment.
You're talking to like two guys that know nothing about the West and nothing about elk. So,
that is a great question, and I can't say that I've noticed anything. I think I've had elk a number of times, but yeah, I don't think I've had it enough to really notice anything as far as the actual meat goes.
Okay, so like, I just kind of basing that question off of like hogs, as you get some here in, Missouri, they're going to taste a lot different than hogs in Texas, just because, in Texas they're eating sage, but up here they can get on some corn and, different things up here that, kind of can tame down the gaminess.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think I think that, you're going to get that with any species. And it's like the saying with us humans, you are what you eat, right?
Yeah.
And so the animal is going to taste like whatever the animal ate. And you could get into animal agriculture. You could just think about it like with whitetails. Like, for example, with where we hunt, where I'm hunting right now on our 60 acres here in Ohio, it's in Harrison County, and it's a lot of old coal mine land. And so there's not a ton, especially just right where our hunting land is. It's probably a couple miles where there's no agriculture as far as like beans and corn and that stuff. And so our deer specifically on our land are eating acorns, they're eating crown vetch, they're eating, just your typical briars and wild grasses and just kind of, I guess you could call them grass-fed whitetail instead of corn-fed. And so I definitely think that our deer, in my opinion, taste a lot better than, if you would go somewhere that's just heavy agriculture and the deer are eating tons of corn and stuff. I'm just not as much into that. Like, I really love the natural browse, natural, grass-fed, whatever you want to call it. I think that type of meat really tastes the best.
I could see that. It's definitely going to be a different. I've heard that the mule deer and stuff and the southern part of New Mexico have a real different taste too. But I want to get into your elk hunting trip. I kind of followed along on social with you out there. You were logging a lot of miles. I think it's super cool. You kind of went to an area that you weren't 100% familiar with. You're with a bow, brand new ground, living out of a camper, just putting in straight work. So I kind of wanted to go into the whole trip, maybe a little bit how you prepared, how you picked an area, and then go into the hunt.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so first of all, elk is just, as far as my hunting bucket list, elk with a bow, I just always wanted to just, not like guiding services are doing it wrong by any means, but I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it myself. I wanted to do it on public land. I just felt like, that's the pinnacle of my accomplishment. And so it was always number one on my bucket list. So anyway, motivation was high. Motivation was high for this one. But yeah, leading up to the hunt, like choosing where I was going to go, all of that stuff. It was actually through a friend, a guide that I met in New Mexico at that outfitter. And he had gone to this unit before. And a little bit about this place, it's north of Durango. There's Unit 75, there's Unit 751. If you want to go look those up, that's where I was at. So either one of those units are over-the-counter archery, either sex tag. Season starts end of August, and that's where I was at. Anyway, so leading up to this hunt, my friend had given me a number of spots, and sorry, let me turn this alarm off. It keeps snoozing on me. Okay, I think I turned it off, so hopefully it doesn't start beeping at us again. But okay, so when I got started preparing for this hunt, I wanted to do Colorado just because it's over the counter. I don't have any sort of points built up in any of the states, and so really it was just somewhere over the counter, somewhere I can go at it, and really just have some sort of intel from other people or research, so that I'm not going into some random spot I know nothing about. I want to try to at least know something, give me some odds of success higher than just going blind. And so anyway, I found this spot from my friend. He told me you're going to have to hike deep to get to the elk. You're going to have to, be in shape. It's going to be super rugged. There's not a ton of elk in this unit, and it gets hunted really hard. And so I'm like, yeah, man, let's put some fitness into this. Let's get it done. And so that's where I chose to go. I was like, I want to hike in. I want to have this awesome experience of, working hard, getting off the road where not many people are going to go, and I'm going to get me an elk. And so first thing, you got to visualize, right? I'm going to get myself an elk, you got to believe. And so going into the work, how I prepared for this leading up, I think you can kind of break it down, I would say, 3 categories. And you just got to keep it simple. Number one is I had to, like I said, get as much intel as you can from other people that have been there. I actually got a lot of very, very good knowledge just through Facebook. I would post in the hunting groups. Just if you're hearing this, like I encourage you to ask questions in those hunting groups. Because just to shout one out, Bow Hunters of America, I'm sure you guys are in that one. There's like 180 some thousand bow hunters in that group, right?
Yeah, there's
yeah,
a
pretty
ton,
close.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like a huge group. So I just started posting stuff. Like I was just like, hey, who knows about this unit in Colorado? And I got really, really good knowledge. And so that's one thing right there that I don't think people take advantage of as much as they should, is like, don't be afraid to ask questions. Just ask all sorts of questions. And I think people maybe, keep to themselves on that subject just because, it's like, oh, well, no one's going to tell me their secret spot. But I think you're going to find that a lot of people are really willing if you're, just genuinely nice to them and you just ask them questions. A lot of people are super helpful, and that's really what I found with preparation is just asking questions, and a lot of really nice people responded, and that was a huge game changer for sure. First of all, have you guys found that using the Facebook groups and stuff? How have you guys used that?
Yeah, we're in a few. Like I said, we're mostly whitetail hunters, so elk hunting something that we haven't touched, but we definitely ask a lot of questions in our group and another Twitter. We use Twitter a lot for questions. Twitter is a great outlet for hunters. A lot of people overlook that, I think, and I feel like people on Twitter feel safe to comment more. I don't really know why.
I don't either.
But they just seem to feel safe.
Maybe you can get hit in that thread.
Maybe you can get hit in the thread, or I don't know if it's an older demographic there, so there is a little more knowledge. But there's something about Twitter for us that we get a lot of good feedback, and we do ask a lot of questions there of area. And I'm sure if we ask about a certain, a certain area for elk hunting, there'd be someone on Twitter that has some info. But we love that, and then we also have a couple our Facebook group we ask questions in, and then a couple other ones that we bounce questions around, and sometimes we ask them directly on our page and have good success.
Yeah. I think that's really awesome to do that, just because. Yeah, I think originally I was kind of like, oh, well, no one's going to tell me about their secret spot, but you got to just ask it, and so many people have helped me out, and so that was a really great experience just on social to experience that. But yeah, so getting a lot of information was the first thing, and then secondly, knowing the terrain of the unit was super huge. So like Google Earth, Onyx Maps, just stuff like that, like getting internet scouting, you could call it. Was a huge thing, just because when you start to learn about like a new species, I had a base level knowledge of elk, but as far as like how to actually find where they are, just from a map was definitely a learning curve. And I'll do a shameless plug. Corey Jacobson has a great course, especially if you're new to elk hunting. His Elk 101 course is really awesome. I did that, and really good baseline knowledge for elk hunters. And so check him out. It's really great. Totally worth it. But yeah, so like getting on the map was the second thing, and looking at where elk gonna bed is I think the number one thing that I learned, and the most helpful. So like you can get on a map and you can be like, oh, there's a big creek right here. They're probably, maybe there's some elk watering, or hey, there's like a great big field. I think that was a learning curve thing for me, was being more of a whitetail hunter. You're like, oh, there's a big field. Like, there's going to be whitetails coming out at night feeding in the grass or feeding in the corn, or it's a food plot or whatever it is. And so I think originally I would look at the map a little bit too much like deer hunting, just because that's what I knew at the time. And I would be like, oh, there's this big field. Maybe, elk are going to be out there at night. And it couldn't be true, but I think the biggest learning thing that was most helpful for me as far as finding elk on a map where you've never been there in person is find the north-facing slopes, find the rugged side hills that are also north-facing, and then specifically also is find the heavy timber. Just because specifically where I was in Durango, it's still pretty hot there. I mean, it gets like 100 maybe in the summer, at least 90s. And so especially August and September this year was really hot. And talking to the locals a little bit, it was hotter than normal. And so when I started out September, it was dark timber, it was north facing, and the steeper the better, which was kind of a learning curve because I didn't really expect elk to be like bedded on like cliffs, but that's really where they were. It was crazy to learn about that.
How would you rate your, map reading skills or, aerial scouting prior to that elk trip?
Well, not much. I mean, when I've hunted deer growing up in Ohio, I hunted deer when I lived in New Hampshire. Those were my only two states, like 90% Ohio. And I got a couple deer in New Hampshire while I was living there, a couple turkeys. But really, you could just say that I've basically just hunted Ohio up until this point. And so I don't use maps in Ohio because we have our hunting land. And if I'm going anywhere else, it's just, we go scout because we live here and I have the access. Mm-hmm. And so I think learning Onyx was super huge. And also Google Earth is great because Google Earth has better like 3D pictures. So that was super useful. Onyx is really good with all the boundaries, but the topo isn't quite as good in my experience with Onyx. So using kind of Onyx and Google Earth kind of as a unit together, going back and forth, I would just open on my computer. I would have Onyx on one tab, Google Earth on the other tab, and I would get it all lined up and just go back and forth. But yeah, not a ton of map reading skills before this hunt. And so that was also, learning curve on how to read topo lines, how to, just navigate so you're not just diving off this cliff and then expecting yourself to just walk up the other side, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I would say one thing with us, or at least me hunting public land here more is, doing a lot more of that, looking at hunt stand, looking at Onyx. And the thing that really gets me is like that overgrown pasture, that CRP grass that you think is only, 2 foot tall. And then you get out there and it's actually like 6-8 foot tall and you can't really see as good as you thought you would. And that's really kind of thrown me off. But as far as like, being able to see where a creek goes or, or where there is a cliff, more of the obvious stuff has been a little easier to identify.
Yeah, for sure. And so I guess next we could kind of jump into when I actually got there, because I definitely learned a lot in I did two-day scouting trips. So I had 4 days of scouting. And I think a couple things that I really learned when I actually was able to get boots on the ground is first of all, you don't need to go just tearing miles after miles after miles, and you probably shouldn't when you're scouting. Because that first day I got there, I was like, guys, my motivation was like 120%. Like, oh man, I'm here. I'm gonna just walk 20 miles today. I'm going to find all the elk sign. It's going to be freaking awesome. And so I was super jazzed. But after that day, I found next to no elk sign. And I was so whooped after hiking that much because I was like, oh, I need to get over here. And so on the map, I just went in a straight line. And so it was down a cliff, up the other side. And that was very inefficient, we'll call it. But yeah, so something that I did learn as far as the scouting goes is you want to have a couple spots narrowed in before you get there. And what I mean by that, is where is what you envision to be the absolute best spot? Like if you have to go hunt blind, where are you going to go? And go check out that spot first. And when you go check it out, also, specifically for elk, is you want to go check the feed. So where you would envision them to be feeding. And if there's not a lot of fresh sign, then don't keep going, because you're going to do no good to just like go scout a bedding area. Because especially with my situation, I was scouting the week before I was going to actually be hunting, just because that's when I was there. I didn't have the privilege of, scouting during the summer a month before the season. So like you could just blow into a bedding area and it's not going to matter if you run all the elk out, because they're going to be back in a month from now, definitely. So I think really finding the food is the number one thing, because if you know where they feed, they're going to be there all night. And so you could glass them in the morning, or you could see where they come from in the evening, and that's going to lead you right to their bed. And it was actually pretty obvious once you find the food to just kind of backtrack to, where would these elk be bedding if this is where they're eating. And once I actually started getting eyes on elk, it was incredible. I had probably the best morning of wilderness watching. I got on this glassing knob, and right away in the morning, I just guys, I slept in the truck the night before, because that first day I did this huge hike that was just like for nothing. I didn't find anything. And so I almost drove home back to the RV and was like going to take a day off. But I was like, no, I'm going to go to this other spot. So I slept in the truck, wake up in the morning. I stumble off into the woods to go to the bathroom. And I'm sitting there, pissing. And I look up and there's 100 elk on this hillside, like a mile away from me. And so I'm like, wow, did I just hit the jackpot or what? And so that's how I found my first elk. So sometimes I guess you just gotta wing it, go to the bathroom and get lucky.
Whatever it takes, man.
Whatever it takes, man. And but yeah, so that second morning of scouting was so crazy. I saw 100 elk. I saw a 6x6 bull was in there. And we'll get to the rest of the story. I saw him 4 times throughout the season, but saw the 6x6 bull, 2 other raghorns in there. Got super pumped on watching all of that. I saw a blonde sow black bear with a black cub and a brown cub, which was really cool because it was like all 3 colors in one family group. So I don't know how many other people have seen that. I feel like that's pretty unique. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say so. I don't know nothing about bears, but just seeing that would be epic.
You don't know shit.
I don't know shit about the West, man. I'm interested as hell, but
right.
It's like a rainbow bear family or something. All 3 colors. That was cool. No, yeah. So I saw that. I saw 2 other mule deer bucks too. So I mean, scouting was super fun. I was feeling definitely confident for the season. And then so when it did start, I just was right there, right where I saw that whole herd. And the next learning moment was get off the road. And so chapter 2, here we go, get off the road. And so the learning moment with this was, as soon as the season started, you would be surprised, or maybe not, how many ATVs and pop-up campers. There were people driving like RVs down, bringing their camper all the way up down this forest road that took me an hour and a half to drive to. I was like, holy cow, these people are nuts. But anyway, the learning curve there was, you got to get off the road that you thought was far enough, because I was surprised that people were driving, mobile homes and pop-up campers and ATVs all over the place in a location that I drove an hour and a half to get to. So that was kind of crazy. I don't know. Do you guys have like remote places like that where, you go like 3 hours and then you still see people?
No, yeah, there's no way we can get that remote from any town. So.
Yeah, no, that was crazy. So anyway, I think the determining factor was the fitness. And so that was something that going into this hunt, as I shared before, my friend had told me how it's a rugged place and you're going to have to get, off the road of the road and the trail of the trail, like really out there. And man, once my hunt started, we could talk for 3 hours on each day that happened. But the fast story of the beginning of the season was I did all this scouting, saw so many elk, felt so confident. The first 2 days of the season, I did get close to that 6x6 bull, but I mean, it wasn't anything worth mentioning. I basically was still hunting and bumped into him, and that was that. But where it starts to get interesting, and I think people can kind of learn from this experience more, was actually on the 15th day into September. And so I hunted 13 out of the 15 days. And I mean, I would have stayed out there every single day, but I had to take care of the family as well, living in an RV, and I had the only vehicle. It was a little sketchy. I had to make sure I took care of the wife. She was just out there by herself, camping in the RV on BLM land. So I had to take some home trips, and I'm sure people understand. But the 15th day, it's the day I get my elk, and man, it was just it was a whole month of hunting in one day. I started out, I got a little tip from a friend on Facebook to check this spot out. And this just really shows how smart elk are and how smart you really need to be to outsmart them. And so what happened was I did a big bow hiking. You know what I mean? Bow hiking.
Yeah.
Hiking a lot and not seeing much. So basically hiking and just carrying your bow.
Mm-hmm.
But
we do that sometimes.
Yeah. But I saw all those elk at the beginning of the season, and then I had gone 2 weeks of bow hiking without even seeing hardly anything. Like I saw like 3 elk during those 2 weeks. So then it was the 15th of September. It was another day of hiking, just trying to find, that fresh elk sign, that stinky steam and poop, all that good stuff. Man, another thing is for you guys that are, only have hunted whitetails, elk are like a whole nother level of stink. You got that rutting buck that comes and you smell him, or, you shoot a buck and you got his tarsal glands. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So elk are something else. It's a strange mix of rutting bull and cow and cattle and I don't know, horse poops. It's a crazy stink. But anyway, that's what I was looking for. I was hiking, and I basically did this whole 6-mile loop, which was just horrible. There's blowdowns from when the forest had burned earlier. There's just steep terrain, rugged, challenging. So I had gone through this whole circle, didn't find anything. It's like 3 p.m, and I was like, what else am I gonna do today? I was feeling down on my luck, and I was heading back to the truck. I'm like, I want dinner. I know it's 3 o'clock, but I'm done for the day. It was basically where I was at mentally and everything. Like I said, it had been 2 weeks since I'd seen an elk. So it was just, it
At
was
that
the
point, you're
mental.
like, do these things even exist?
I'm like, and the thing that I just kept clinging to, and I know some people are gonna say it sounds silly, but this was really just kept me going. Was it can all change in 1 second. And I know you guys know, you're sitting in the tree stand, you haven't seen a deer for the entire morning or entire evening during your tree stand sit, and then that last 10 minutes, one comes, and it goes from having a horrible day to maybe your best day. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, been there a bunch of times where you don't see anything, and then boom, here's a giant coming in. So
Right. It only takes one. So I was like, it only takes one out. It's going to be 1 second. And just like I visualized it coming into existence or something, it happened. I was walking back to the truck. I just happened to look over to the left, and then there they are, half a mile down the ridge. There was like 8 cows and a bull. I sit down, I start glassing them, and originally I was like, okay, I'm gonna be smart. I'm gonna play the slow game. I'm just gonna glass them tonight. And then the other side of me is like screaming, "There's elk! We haven't seen elk in 2 weeks. Like we gotta go after them right now." And you can probably guess which side won. And so I was going after him. And so I basically bombed down this side hill. And then once I was on the same elevation as him, I started moving closer to him. And it was just, I called baby aspens. It was like these tiny growth aspens. It was all the blowdowns and stuff. And I was just trying to get as close as I could to him before dark. So I had probably like 3 hours of light. And I start moving close to them, and eventually I get pretty close to where they're at. They're probably like within 500 yards or within 300 yards of where I had seen them. And so I'm getting close, and all of a sudden, my mind just exploded. I look up as I come out of the aspens, and there he is in all his glory, the 6x6, same one I had seen all season, like 4 or 5 times. And he was just 100 yards away. So the bull had moved closer to me while I was moving to them. So I was like, sweet deal,
wow,
sweet
yeah.
deal. And so there we are, 100 yards away. He doesn't know I'm there. And so I just go, Corey Jacobson, straight up out of Elk 101, I'm going to do challenge bugle. And so I grab my bugle too, get all fired up. I'm like, I'm going to challenge him. He's going to come running in. So I let him go, big old challenge bugle. And basically what you're trying to say is, I'm over here and I'm going to come take your cows. Like, you better come fight me. And so he bugles back. It was just, man, it was so cool, the experience of like calling my first bull like that with him getting fired up. And so basically what happened was I heard him crashing through the brush, but I couldn't hear if he was coming closer, if he was, leaving. I couldn't figure it out with hearing and everything. And eventually, after bugling back and forth a couple times, it sounded like to me that he was taking his cows up the hill to get away from me. So I'm like, oh man, we can't let him get away. So I'm like, here we go. So I go hoofing it up this hill, just like full on Rambo, just, we gotta get there, we gotta cut him off. And so, hashtag fitness, I was just killing it, my heart up in my throat, but didn't even care because we're in elk season. Come on. And so I get to the top of the hill and everything's quiet. 10, 15 minutes go by. I'm just sneaking, looking to where they went, and basically think that they're gone. Because I was like, he probably just took his cows and they left, and he's like, got away from me, the challenger. And what ended up happening is I'm like, okay, well, today was cool. That was really fun. And again, I start heading back to the truck. So I'm back at the top of the mountain where I originally started, which was probably like 1,000 feet of elevation or something. I had gone down, and then now I had gone back up. And then I look over again, and sure enough, they're still down there, the same spot where I was, and now they're like 200 yards away. And the thing that just was crazy was they were all huddled up, like 8 cows in the bowl, and they were looking right back to where I was calling. So I was like, crap, he was probably coming in, or they were probably just standing there waiting for me to show myself. And so they didn't go all the way up the hill. And so looking back on that, I think a learning moment was I didn't quite do the calling setup that I should. What I should have done was start with cow calls, because what that would have done was establish that there's some cows over here, and he might think that they're actually a couple of his cows. Then if I would have challenged bugled after he had established that there was cows over here, he would have either thought, oh, someone, like, my cows wandered off and someone's taking my cows, or just, hey, there's cows over there, like I want to go get some more. The more the merrier. And so that was kind of a learning moment that, maybe on my next hunt that can work out a little differently. But so what I ended up doing, which was, oh my gosh, the most epic hunt I've ever had, was I'm 200 yards above them now, and I'm like, okay, I gotta make something happen. Because originally I was like, well, maybe they'll work their way up the hill. I was standing in a burn where I had figured was their feed. And so I was like, they're probably going to come up and feed. But they were just plastered on watching where my calls were coming from. And I'm out in the open in all these blowdowns. But it was like 45 minutes till dark. And so it just came down to, like, I got to make it happen. And so I'm sure it was really funny to watch if you've been like a fly on the wall. But I was in the middle of nowhere in the open. I had no cover except like an occasional blowdown and some logs. And so what I would do is I'd be squatted down, and I got my binos on them, and I'm like, okay, no one's looking. And then I would just like jump over the log. Please don't see me. Please don't see me. Please don't see me. Jump to the next blowdown, and then squat back down. and then I did that all the way down the hill until I got to about 100 yards where there was actually a lot of cover. And I ended up doing some sort of slow motion CrossFit yoga calisthenics stalking. I don't know what you would call it. But I was like, it was like doing yoga, or tiptoeing like the Pink Panther in slow motion with the weight vest on. It was something crazy. It was, oh my gosh. But I end up getting all the way down there, and it was right before dark. I think it was literally like 5 minutes before legal shooting light was over, and I was right there. I got down to the herd, and I had the bull at 77 yards, which I had practiced all summer at 70. I was good at 70. That was my distance. And I'm like, man, I can't risk a 77-yard shot, like something I'm not ready for. And, some guys might have tried to stretch it, like do an old Hail Mary. But I think, as hunters also, like, you got to stick with your limits. You got to know what you're ready for. And, I just feel like that, the animal deserves to have you make a prepared shot too. So I didn't take that shot on the bull. Of course I wanted to, but was not going to waste an opportunity. And I had a whole line of cows lined up at 60 yards watching me. And so I end up shooting a cow, perfect shot. It was actually one lung, and she was quartering away a little bit. And so it was one lung going in, and on the way out, it got the top of the heart and came out kind of the brisket area. And so she piled up, and we packed her out the next morning, which was awesome. My wife hiked up with me, and we had a blast doing that together. She was straight up beast mode. She carried the front 2 quarters, and I carried one of the hind quarters and all the extra meat, like the back straps, neck, and brisket and all that stuff. But Man, it was a crazy experience, and physically, one of the more challenging things I've ever done. Like I've done a lot of trail racing. I've done 50 milers and ultra marathons and Spartan races and all that jazzy stuff. Playing in the dirt, people pay to do that, I guess. and but man, it was just the mental grind of that hunt and coming out victorious, and just the physical everyday hiking, and keeping yourself mentally ready. Just keep telling myself it can all change in one moment. It only takes one elk. Like I was, just give me one elk. I just need one elk. And so 15 days later, I was lucky enough to get it done. And yeah, the preparation definitely paid off. I think a lot of people would have not had the fitness, or not had that mentality, and taken a couple more off days. I'm sure there's people that are in way better shape than me. I'm not trying to brag or anything like that, but it was really just that preparation that really definitely made a huge difference to get me to my first elk.
Yeah, for sure, man. To be straight up honest with you, there's no way I could have done that physically able. Like me and homie have talked about elk, and that's something that's not even on our Richter scale right now. That's something that we feel like we need to prepare for, and go with someone that knows what they're doing, even if we went to film, just so we could learn something and experience it, because it's it's like hunting aliens to me. I don't know anything about them, you know what I mean? It's just something new and strange, but
I just think the terrain is so next level that.
I seen your video packing out, man. It was like blow down, blow down, blow down. I was like, I don't even know. Like, you got all that weight on your back, and you're climbing over trees through limbs and stuff. I'm like, that is epic. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. It was only like it was only a mile and a half pack out, but oh my goodness, it took us I think 4 hours to go a mile and a half, and it was I'll call it the cherry on top, with the mental training and the physical training, and just putting those two together. And I think one of the things too, with the whole, just the entire hunt experience in general, that was really just, I don't know, you could call it like becoming a man, something like that. It was lost my train of thought.
I know what
It
you're
was
saying, man. It's something epic. It's you dreamed elk with a bow. You did it all by yourself. You're out there just pounding the mountains. You're by yourself.
On a long period of time.
Yeah, a long period of time, going back and never giving up. Like you said, you just had the faith for one elk. And I was, a lot of people would look at it, well, he didn't get the bull, but I mean, 7 yards. I mean,
Right.
you know how many people we know of went out there and never even seen an elk.
Oh, tons.
You know, and you were on the elk and you were successful. That blows me away. For a guy just to go out there by himself with a bow and a backpack, and just going for it. You know what I mean? That's epic stuff. And for where
No,
you
it
were
was
at
that-
with the blowdowns and stuff, I couldn't have done it.
No, it was definitely so much fun. And what I was trying to say, I remembered here, was the thing out there that was such a learning experience is when you're out there in the terrain, doing the hunt day after day with the mentality, the mental game. It's because you have to. And I think that's a different experience for a lot of people. And what I mean by that was, like, after I shot my elk, like I said, it was right at dark. I wasn't prepared to tracker and quarter it by myself that night. So I had to hike 2 hours back to my truck in the dark, up that mountain in the blowdowns. And it was because I had to,
Yeah.
because I couldn't just crawl up in a ball, die of hypothermia that night, sitting there on the mountain, right? So I think there was a lot of time, a lot of moments, probably numerous ones a day, where it was like, maybe I don't want to be hiking this huge hill right now,
But you got
but
it.
I'm doing it because I have to.
Yeah.
And that was another unique experience that is just really a great learning experience just about yourself. Like, you have so much more inside of you than people really let come out. If you know what I mean. Like people are so comfortable living in their house and doing their job, and even just talking about hunting. Like, by all means, you don't have to be uncomfortable, but it's a different experience when you're out there in the rugged mountains, and you're doing it because you have to, because the truck is hours away, and you can't just flip a switch, drive your four-wheeler back from the tree stand, and get back in your truck.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, when you got the elk down, I mean, now you got an elk down. It's like you got to go back in there and get it. You
Yep.
got to quarter. You got to get it out of there. So
Yeah, exactly. And so that was like, next level bonding experience with just your own mindset, believing in yourself, and really, really was awesome to have that experience with my wife. She doesn't hunt herself, but she's always super supportive of my hunting, and shout out to her. She got the best wife award for going beast mode and packing out that elk. That was awesome.
for
I
sure.
say, she deserves
yeah,
it.
Yeah. I don't know what 2 front quarters weigh, but can't be light, and you're going
Right.
up a hill through blowdowns. That's some epic stuff. So
Oh yeah, I think hers was around 55 or 60 pounds, and mine was pushing 90, and it felt like 190.
I bet, yeah. Going
Yeah.
up, trying to drag that uphill. Me and homie have like one little. It's not little for us, but it's deep and steep. And when we get to the top of it, I'm like, I can't go elk hunting. No way.
I was saying,
I'm just gassed.
Every time we go through that, I'm like, we're not going elk hunting.
No,
Like,
no.
just stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
We're not going.
Yeah, there's no way we can make it. But well, one thing I do really enjoy is you kind of hosting this live. You're kind of updating on the hunt, and then after you were successful, you kind of updated on the pack out. So I want you to tell people where they can find you so they can see this live stuff that you're doing, whether it's fitness wise or it's hunting wise. I love that you're hosting it live like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm basically just solely on Facebook is where I put all my content. Like I said earlier, I haven't gotten into just being super techie and doing videos and stuff, and so don't have YouTube or anything, but you can just find me by looking up Ben Lehman, and I'm sure you guys will have the correct spelling on this episode, and just look up Ben Lehman and look for the guy that has his bow and deer and hunting.
Yeah.
That's
Homie,
that's
correct
all
spelling,
what
you
I
said.
post right there. Yeah.
That's on homie. He's a spell guy. I can't spell.
Well,
All right, good deal.
I
No,
s-
I know a lot of people do layman like LAY, and I think it's the German version is what my family is, LEHMAN.
Yeah. Homie would nail it for you, but yeah. Make sure, for our listeners, make sure and check this guy out. If you need motivation one day, just go to his page. And this guy, like I said, he'll be doing push-ups with goats on his back and just blow your mind.
he makes us look bad as the hype men.
Yeah, just epic, just hyped all the time, loving life. Like I said, I love your personality. I love your passion for hunting, wanting to do it by yourself. That took balls, man. That took a lot of balls to go out there in the mountains by yourself. And I mean, bears running around, not knowing a ton about elk. You're out there with your bow, and to be successful, get that close on a giant bull, even see it a few times. I mean, that is just epic in itself. And this is just like your first major hunt. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
as much
for
as you
sure.
learned, your next hunt's just going to be that much better. And your
Right.
next hunt's going to be that much better. So,
Oh yeah, absolutely. And you can bet that I'm hooked now, and I already got plans for next year. And yeah, stay tuned. We got Ohio hunting right now. I just had probably the best bow hunting day I've ever had. Yesterday, I was lucky enough to get a great, awesome, 2 or 3 year old doe in the morning, and then I got this really awesome funky looking 6-point at night.
Yeah, that was a big 6-point, man.
Probably the biggest 6-point I've ever got. I've actually had a strange thing for 6 points. My freshman year in high school, I got a 6-point that was even bigger than the one I got yesterday, and I actually have that thing mounted. It was wall worthy for me.
Nice, yeah. I thought that 6-pointer was a really solid buck for a 6-pointer. I was like, dang, that thing is epic. But I mean, a doe and a buck in the same day, that's pretty solid too. But you're definitely getting it done. Like I said, make sure and follow his content. I follow you on. You have a workout page also, correct?
I do. So actually, I don't use that anymore. So just go off my personal page. That's where I have all my fitness and motivation, all my hunting content. And I used to have a Ben Lehman racing page. I used to do Spartan racing a lot, but that's not really relevant anymore.
Okay. All right. Well, we appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. I know there's a lot of listeners that are interested in elk hunting, and I think this gave them the motivation and the fear that they needed to get in shape and to know what they need to do to go out there and chase these critters around.
Absolutely. If you want something, you can absolutely do it, and you just got to get the tools and the preparation, and man, you can do it. Anyone can do it. It was so awesome to get out there, and thanks for having me on, share my story, and looking forward to next time.
Man, 15 days in the wilderness. I mean, I think it's so cool that he's traveling in the camper. He's like working for food and a place to stay, learning about elk, pretty much living like the single man's dream, you know what I mean? Like just having fun. If you guys follow his social, he's super motivational, super high energy, super positive. He's a good guy to follow on social. There's a lot of people out there that can bring you down, a lot of posts that can bring you down, and that's not him. He's always going to bring you up. Huge shout out to him for getting it done. I mean, almost on a giant bull, but being the hunter and being his first time, he took the opportunity on, a nice elk and got the experience packing out with his wife. So, I mean, that's a super cool experience. Definitely grew their bonding. I guarantee you that.
Oh, yeah.
So if they're not close enough, just living in a camper, I can imagine. But big shout out to her for getting out there and helping him out and enjoying, his passion and getting some meat to cook up on the camper up there. I mean, they're gonna have a pretty big freezer in that camper. I say.
I was gonna say. What did he say? About 140 pounds of.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, well, we hope you guys enjoyed this one. We wanted to give Ben a time to shine. I think he's a guy that people should follow, and we wanted to give one for the Western hunters because that's something that we don't have.
Yeah.
Like we say, we always try to hit all our listeners, whether it be states or not, but we're whitetail guys, but this was a fun, interesting podcast. I learned a lot, and we hope you guys did too. Get out there, try to learn something new, leave a legacy, and Whitetail Legacy's out.